G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. Welcome to Pivot the Path. G'day golfers and good morning. Welcome to Pivot the Path. We've got a buzzing week this week, and for the next few we've got the US Open tennis in town and the intercons where most of the players stay and most of the officials, which is only a block from Swing. So there's just all the buzz of it's all happening here in the city of the US Open. As a tennis nut, I love it. Do you know, I've been in this city 19 years and I've never been to the US Open as a tennis nut. So I don't know why that is the case. So the improvement pivot point, I've kind of drawn from numerous different scenarios this week, from Tommy, tenacious, poised, gracious, tenacious, Fleetwood, who finally won his PGA Tour event. And I am so unbelievably happy for him. We'll get more to that in news from the fairways, but suffice to say, we drew a little bit of the improvement pivot point from Tommy. And then we held an event here on Friday night, and I watched a couple of mates who I haven't seen for a while hit some balls, and they were still doing the same old thing they were doing 5 years ago. So what I thought we'd do with the improvement pivot point is just wrap the last couple of months up in a little bow of actually how to practice. And so I've noticed that feel versus real is probably one of the biggest detriments to people improving. So that's our improvement pivot point. We'll get onto a little more of that in a little while. But I wanted to touch on something that was close and dear to our heart, and that was we shut Swing down early on Friday and held a very intimate candlelit event here. And I got to be honest, as a guy who's Mr. Pragmatic, I'm function over form. I'm a guy who's an engineer brain and who sees the business as very much, I will get any player to scratch and get any player to hit whatever shot is desired. Whatever shot you want, I'll be able to get you to hit in about 10 minutes. And Rosemary's side of the brand is more the marketing and how we get golf and how we appeal to golfers and grow the community. And so we work very well together. We had a very intimate gathering here on Friday night. We shut Swing down early and we had 3 of Rosie's college mates, Ash, Kelly and Jess, and then we had Jess from where Rosie used to work, an oldest working mate. And the 4 of them really, and shout out to Katie, best producer ever. So we wanted to shout out and just mention what we had on the weekend, because I think it's very important for people to refuel their tank. And before we get into the old news from the fairways and a little more serious stuff, we're a family and we're a couple because of this small business, and I think who we are, I know who we are. Rosemary and I give a lot. We give all day, every day. And here at Swing, my job is to get people down to scratch and to hit any shot they want. And so that's a giving relationship. So we had 3 of my wife's college mates, Jess, Ash, and Kelly, and Jessie, who's part of our family, and everyone else who came on Friday night, close friends. But those 4 particularly are the few people who really put back into my wife's emotional tank. And as a husband and partner and small business owner here in the city, and look, our job is to give. We give and we give and we give and we give. But for 2.5, 3 days, I actually watched my wife's besties kind of replenish her emotional tank. And I think that's really important. The world is so fast paced and everyone's so busy with kids and family and in-laws and work and running this business. Well, very often we forget to stop and actually just look around and say, hey, am I someone in an emotional relationship who gives, or am I someone who always draws on energy? And we're certainly givers. And so it was really lovely to see my wife just get some emotional pushback in, and it was just phenomenal. So from the bottom of my heart, for those four, I just cannot thank you enough. And so it was really lovely. We laughed and laughed and laughed, and we had some good old times. These guys hadn't been together for 11 years. So my advice before we get on a golf avenue is find who makes you laugh, who makes you love unconditionally. We sat on a kitchen bench and we kind of just picked at food, and it was the best 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday night we've had in years. So find the people who float your boat and find the people who get you, and just surround yourself with them as often as you can. It's something that Rosie and I are going to do a lot more of, because what we feel on a Monday morning, given that our emotional tank has been filled up, is pretty cool. And I really think that sometimes we don't give ourselves enough gratitude for that. So, and parlaying that, I come back to Tommy Fleetwood. Now, everyone's basically said, oh, he's choked, which I cannot stand that word choke. As a guy who used to be on tour, look, you learn. And one thing I love about Tommy Fleetwood, his poise and grace and elegance. I mean, he hit it in the water this week and was still signing autographs or high-fiving on his way to taking a drop. I mean, the guy is the epitome of professional, and you can't let the circumstance be bigger than what it is. And so, news from the fairways, we had a really cool week as the engine passes here in New York City. Welcome to New York City. News from the fairways. We didn't have a ton of golf. So we had the LPGA play up in Canada, the Canadian Open, although they didn't really call it the Canadian Open, but it was a Canadian Open. We had Brooke Henderson win her local event, which I always love when a local country person wins their Open. So that was pretty cool. And then Alex Noren, the 43-year-old Swede, hasn't won in 7 years, won the DP Tour event, which I thought was so cool. And then we have the FedEx playoff championship, call it what you will. And I think it was described well, because it was a reward for the player who played the best season. And I had picked last week that Scotty Scheffler won. It was bizarre. So on the first, he was only a couple behind on the last round, and on the first hole he hit it out of bounds and just looked out of sorts. And in the interview, and I can't believe that Scotty didn't win, take nothing from Tommy Fleetwood at all. I just thought Scheffler would crush it. But it shows you how difficult it is to win on PGA Tour, and it shows you, or it showed me at least, how brilliant Scotty Scheffler's been week in, week out. Something was on Sunday with Scheffler to hit it out of bounds, and he just looked out of sorts. So whether he wasn't feeling great, whether something happened personally, whatever it was, he didn't allude to it. So when he was interviewed after his round, the fourth round on Sunday, where he played okay, he just said, yeah, wasn't on today, wasn't quite there. And he had his party line. That obviously had his party line prepared, and he wasn't going to let us in, and that's totally his call. It was interesting to me that he just shut the interview down. So something went on, and I'm such a big fan of Scotty Scheffler. It wasn't his day, and he interviewed with grace and said so much. But more to whose day it was, and Tommy bloody Fleetwood, you are absolutely superb. So 3 times he's led going into the last 9 on the Sunday before the event, or of the Sunday for the event of a PGA Tour event, and 3 times he's lost. And for him to win the last event on the FedEx, on the main PGA Tour circuit, is outstanding. I was absolutely ecstatic for Fleetwood, for him to win his PGA Tour event, the tenacious manner in which he did it, the tenacious manner he was interviewed week after week. Oh, Tommy, you didn't get it done. This whole thing, and I think it really affected Lee Westwood. You're the best player not to win a major, or you're the best player not to win on the PGA Tour. I do have stats here. I think he played 168 tour events or 268 tour events without a win. I mean, who cares? He's won, that's 32 million including the FedEx. So let's say he's made 20 million. I haven't made $20 million in my career just yet. And so people kind of forget that as a professional sports person, we choose to put food on the table playing our sport. And very quickly, because, you know, professional tour players, whether it's Tour de France, whether it's tennis, whether it's golf, whether it's pickleball, whatever it is, it's a choice to put all those eggs into the tour player basket. And people forget and label majors or grand slams, but at the end of the day, if he's winning 20 million bucks, he has crushed his career. So it doesn't, to me, matter whether someone wins a major or wins a grand slam. It's how they hold themselves. And Tommy Fleetwood, the grace and elegance, mate, that you've held yourself in the last 8 months, when you should have, when you could have won a couple of tour events and you have not, suggests how unbelievably brilliant it was to have Rosie and who's the other chap? And Big Shane Lowry. To have Rosie film on his iPhone Tommy winning, to me, says more about the class of Tommy Fleetwood. When Tiger won all his events, I tell you what, he didn't have other touring pros videoing when Tiger won. And it just shows you the class of guy Tommy Fleetwood is. And so and Justin Rose being just an absolute gentleman and a scholar. To have those guys hang back and congratulate him was really powerful. That, to me, says that, Tommy, you are all class. And I love when a family man, and his stepson was there, and obviously his family's back in the UK, and he's just the epitome of what I believe golf to be. You know, the difference between, say, a Rory and a Scotty Scheffler and a Tommy Fleetwood is deafening if you actually want to look, which I do. And I am absolutely ecstatic. So, buddy, I hope you take a couple of months off and just reset and figure out your new goals. And I'd love the PGA Tour, for those who listen on PGA Tour, hopefully some of the powers that be do, for Christ's sake, get an interviewer who's an ex-tour player, because the questions that those interviewers ask are stupid. If we can just get someone to actually, who's lived being on tour, ask some tournament questions, and it just will get us into their corner a lot more, and will open the door of the emotional state of what it is. You know, get Kevin Kistner on the 18th green. Kiss is an awesome guy who's turning into be a brilliant commentator. Maybe get someone like Michelle Wee, who's a brilliant golfer, who's kind of just turning it back a little to have a family, which is awesome. But I'm getting a little frustrated at just journalists trying to get into golf speak. And if I can suggest to the PGA Tour to find someone like the ATP do. So when Jimmy Courier or Johnny McEnroe interview as the tennis players leaving that court, because they're tour players themselves or tennis players themselves, it allows an emotional conversation that's more relevant. And when you get journalists who have never put themselves under pressure of a tournament, asking dumb questions, it just lacks a little bit of inviting me in. You've got me watching an event, grab my hook and really lure me in. And I think they need to step it up. So my advice to PGA Tour, get someone who actually knows about the golf game to interview these guys as they walk off the 18th green when they've just won. That'd be pretty cool. I reckon Kev Kisner should do that. Which leads us back to the improvement pivot point. Now, I didn't watch the Golf Channel. I just didn't have time to watch his post-tournament press conference. But Tommy Fleetwood did say I had to change my routine, the back nine. And my gut feeling is he quickened his routine. It was too slow. One thing I noticed in the last 2 or 3 weeks when he didn't get it done was he got slower and slower and slower. And my comments were his caddy should have been in his face saying, come on, buddy, let's go. Where are you? What specific shot? That chip shot that he hit on 17 a couple of weeks ago where his caddy was nowhere. His caddy should have been in there and said, right, Velcro on, switch on, or whatever Tommy's trigger is. But he should have been a lot quicker, 10, 12, 15-second pre-shot routine, whereas Tommy was looking and looking and looking. And so my guess is he tweaked his routine to be a little quicker. And what I wanted to use was parlay that Tommy Fleetwood worked on his pre-shot routine, clearly, because he said he did. He worked on his routines and habits. And watching the mates of mine playing here on Friday night, one of whom I haven't seen for like 5 years, still doing the same old things. What I wanted to bring the improvement pivot point back was, hey, in here sometimes we say, we suggest you should do A or we should suggest you should do B. But I think people forget how to actually practice that. And when you practice as a tour player, I used to have goals of what I wanted to achieve on the day. So if I had 1 hour of allotted time, which I believe New York City golfers can have in here, I basically set up and built Swing to have 1 hour allotments of time. I think if golfers can give me 1 hour a week, maybe even 2 or 3 hours a week, an hour of good practice, we can break that up into a couple of different segments. And I wanted to really mention one specific technical point that I noticed a couple of guys in here on Friday night doing, and we can actually improve that and actually explain how to improve it with that hour of time. So our improvement pivot point is how to use your time better to achieve a goal. And I thought we'd get into that. So let's go. Okay, so feel versus real. Watching some mates play on Friday night, even though the setting was different, it was very relaxed, I noticed that one of the guys was doing the same thing he was 5 years ago. And so I thought, and this guy loves his golf. So I thought, well, why? Why is that the case? And the reason Rosemary and I built Swing was to improve the manner in which people practice. And one thing that I've noticed that's pretty well rife in the golf industry is this pedanticness to be like someone else. And what we do very differently here is work backwards. And we know that every ball flight, whether it's a flop shot, a chip and run, a power fade, or a big old draw, has a math equation. And so what Swing and how Swing is very, very different is that we set up this business based on the result, ball flight, and worked backwards. And we know there's no other facility like Swing with the manner in which we teach it. And as I said, we can get any person at any level to hit any shot in about 10 minutes. Even guys who've never played golf before, I can get them hitting fades and draw in about 10 minutes. Why? Because the system in here works. It's really different and it's really simple. So what I thought I'd do is just break down, okay, Youngie, put your money where your mouth is. How do we do that? And what I've noticed is that people get a little confused on how to practice a skill. And so I thought the improvement pivot point was to talk the difference between feel and real. Okay, well, that's Youngie, that sounds great, but how do I practice that? And so that's what I wanted to do today. So one particular motion I see so rife, and it's generally because of a lack of thoracic rotation. So one of our kind of core structures at Swing is we believe physiology dictates golf swings. We've proved that beyond reasonable doubt. So if I set up with my Velcro on switch on logo with my arrow, what I like to talk about is we know, again, working backwards, that the glove logo is pointing to the target or slightly parallel left for a right-hander and parallel right for a left-hander. We know the glove logo is pointing parallel to the target at address and then at impact, right? So therefore, if you work backwards and go, well, if the glove logo is pointing to the target at address and at impact, and if that's parallel to my spinal cord, the longer we can keep this glove logo, my left forearm, parallel to my spine, for as long as we can, the club is still at the same point it started and finishes at. So we know that if I swing here, so for me, everyone's got idiosyncrasies, chest to ball, tiny bit of knee flex, tuck tailbone, because I'm so anteriorly tilted. So then if I turn shoulder down, glove down, shoulder down, glove down, shoulder down, glove down, I want to feel like my glove logo faces back. Now, when someone loses thoracic mobility and they swing the club inside, the club, because it's swinging like this is inefficient, we don't say right or wrong, this is kind of Justin Thomas inefficient. As I swing the club round like a merry-go-round, my brain goes, well, I need leverage. So I then lift. And now my glove logo is in a vertical position to my forearm. People say a cupped left wrist. I think that's a bullshit comment. All we say is that the wrist, therefore the club face and direction, has changed from where it started. Remember, if my glove logo stays parallel to my forearm, which is parallel to my spine, for a long period of time, the club is still square to where it has to be at impact. The moment that changes is not wrong. Justin Thomas, when he whips it inside and lifts, he cups. In old golf talk, in my language, he just uses his hands to get leverage. He changes where the face is relative to his forearm. When these two angles change, and golf gets a little more tricky. And so there's gadgets out there that people put on. There's so many gadgets in the industry, but I find them to be extremely inefficient in time of practice. So here's a way that you can get the club face to remain square and how you can practice with an efficient point of time. Okay, so what I'd get everyone to do is grab an arrow, Amazon, 20 bucks. You can put it on your golf club, and you can also use it if you're not quite sure of a reference point. If every golfer used a T-square, tilt, so my pre-shot routine is tilt, tuck, toes, and then I look at the target. Now, all I'm trying to do is keep my left wrist parallel to my spine for as long as possible. Shoulder down, glove down, shoulder down, glove down, shoulder down, glove down. Now, I've got 90 degrees of rotation, so I can disassociate my arm a little bit. The industry goes on and on about keeping your left arm straight. Biggest load of bullshit. As long as I don't bend it too much, then I don't reduce the arc of the circle. In a perfect world, yes, this should stay straight. My left arm stays straight. It's 5:30 in the morning. I'm a little tight, so I might bend it this morning. But as long as my glove logo stays parallel to my forearm, I'm in good spot. I return the club to where it started, and then I continue on my merry way. So I'm going to do that motion about 5 times. Again, when you're practicing, have as a goal, I'm trying to, for this particular circumstance, I'm trying to feel what it is for my glove to be in the right spot. And what we've noticed in the point of the improvement pivot point is that golfers start ripping driver or hitting 7-irons as hard as you can. In my opinion, you must have mathematics in terms of face and path to dictate improvement, because unless you've got something that's absolutely pragmatic, you don't know whether you're improving or not. How do we know if the glove logo changes? Because the club face number will vary. And we want the club face number to stay. Remember the rule of golf. Every single golfer has a path generally of between 0 and 10, unless you're trying to do something crazy. So if we know the path of the club, and that's, remember, the mathematical number that refers to the club coming into impact relative to a target line. Here's our target line. Path is literally just a mathematical number, whether the club's coming inside the target line or outside the target line. Hips lead, arms trail, they come inside the target line. Torso leads. As the torso leads, centrifugal force moves the club away from us. The club comes outside the target line. So all we're trying to do in golf is have a face less than path. We know that path is somewhere between 0 and 10 for every single person on the face of the earth, thereabouts, unless they're trying to do something crazy. So if you just work backwards in this game and you have something like numbers to dictate success, I promise you 5 years like my mate won't go past and you'll still be doing the same old, right? Golf is really simple. Face less than path. If I point my glove parallel to the club face, to the target, my club face is at 0. If it returns that way, my club face is at 0. So therefore, all I'm going to do is have a practice without a club. Chest to ball, so I'm tilt, tuck, toes, target, logo down, this parallel, parallel, hips go first, return to where I started, release. I'm going to do that 5 times. Now, this is my point for the improvement pivot point. I watch golfers time and time again do a beautiful little drill without a golf club, and then they hit it as hard as they can. A fantastic little exercise, and the point of the improvement pivot point, feel versus real, okay? The point of the improvement pivot point is to practice that slowly. Let's get into the drill again. What do? I'm no club, tilt, tuck, toes. My glove logo and my forearm stay parallel. Shoulder down, glove logo down, shoulder down, glove logo down. Return to exactly where I started, release. Okay, then I'm going to grab my club and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Now, where I notice most golfers go is they go straight into speed. Guys, this is a fantastic way to learn a new skill. So my drill today is with a golf club to feel like I'm super bowed at the top with my lead wrist. Or for me, I feel like I'm basically very closed. So I'm going to go tilt, tuck, toes, target, and then I'm going to feel my glove logo down, shoulder down, glove logo down, shoulder down. Now I'm going to get to the top of my golf swing and it feels like my glove logo's down, but here's the kicker. Feel versus real in golf messes people up. So by taking speed out of the equation, you can keep things super simple. My goal is to recreate logo down, shoulder down. Feel that. Slowly. Tilt, tuck, toes, target. There's my pre-shot routine. Now I'm thinking logo down, logo down, logo down, logo down, logo down. Hips go first, swing, and through I go. Check my numbers. I just came inside 9, first swing of the day, 6 a.m. My face is 4. The ball will start right and draw. Face less than path. Now, I'm not going to change until I look at all these. All these numbers are garbage. They're all results. The process is I came from the inside 9.9. My face was 4.3. 4 is less than 9. So what that means, as I swing a golf club, let's get back to math. My target line's this yellow line. I've come from the inside 10 degrees. If my path is relative to this golf shaft, because my face is less than path, the ball is going to start to the right and draw back. So now I know that the skill I'm practicing, logo down, grooves down, is correct because the face is 4 degrees, 4 is less than path, face less than path is this entire game. My point is, with your improvement pivot point, make sure you're measuring it with objective math to see if you're doing the right thing. Feel versus real is crazy. And make sure what you're doing is slow. I wouldn't hit a full swing until I do it super slow, maybe for about 15 minutes. And after I do it correctly for 15 minutes, you're going to start to get a feel. What we say at Swing, make sure you're objectively achieving something with good math. And then after time, you'll get a feel for it. So for me, it's like, wow, that feels closed, but it's not, it's square. Why do we know it's square? Is because the face says open, meaning ball starting right of target line, but less than path. My face is, it feels to me dead shut, but it's open 4 degrees relative to target. Remember, feel versus real. What you feel is usually what's not occurring. It's kind of the essence of building Swing and obviously creating our brand here. Feel versus real. Remember, always be objective. Use mathematics. And slow, slow, slow. If every golfer did this drill, tilt, tuck, I have to tuck, not everyone, just me. Tilt, tuck, toes. If everyone just did the no club drill, back to 0, release. They'd be such better golfers because it's keeping the game simple. Our job is to keep it simple. Beauty golfers, look, thanks for listening. Remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your game off the course. In this instance, we're talking feel versus real. Take the speed off, get the math right, then put the speed on, then get a feel. Remember, base your feel on math and objectivity. You can absolutely own your swing. Please share the newsletter. Thank you very much for your support, and we'll speak to you next week. Enjoy the US Open, and let's go play some tennis too. Cheers.